Ambassador Zexthal adjusted his ceremonial robes nervously as he entered the sterile white conference room aboard the neutral station. 3 months of preparation had led to this moment, first contact with the species calling themselves humans. The Galactic Council had designated him as the primary negotiator, confident that his decades of diplomatic experience would ensure a smooth integration of this new species into civilized space. The humans had been discovered 6 months ago when their primitive faster-than-light vessels had stumbled into consortium territory. Initial reports suggested they were a young species, barely having achieved interstellar travel. Perfect candidates for guided integration under the established protocols. The door hissed open and 3 humans entered. Zexthal was immediately struck by how ordinary they appeared. No chitinous armor like the Kreshtar, no energy fields like the Velnathi, no visible biomodifications whatsoever. They looked soft, almost fragile, with their pale skin and small stature. The lead human, a female with graying hair, smiled warmly and extended her hand in the peculiar human greeting ritual they'd been briefed about. Ambassador Zexthal, I presume? I'm Secretary Chen. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us today. The tone was respectful, almost deferential. Zexthal felt his confidence grow. This would indeed be straightforward. The pleasure is entirely mine, Secretary Chen, Zexthal replied through his translator. The consortium is always delighted to welcome new species into our peaceful alliance. Chen's smile widened. How wonderfully generous of you. We're truly grateful for this opportunity to discuss our mutual interests. The negotiations proceeded smoothly. Too smoothly, Zexthal would later reflect. The humans accepted every territorial restriction with gracious nods. They agreed to technology limitations with humble gratitude. When presented with the standard tribute requirements, 15% of their gross planetary product, Chen merely clasped her hands together. 15%, she repeated thoughtfully. How remarkably reasonable. We were expecting something far more substantial given the incredible benefits of consortium membership. Something in her tone made Zexthal's dorsal spines tingle with unease, but he pressed on. The final clause was always the most delicate: military restrictions. New species were limited to defensive forces only, with offensive capabilities surrendered to consortium control. We completely understand, Chen said, her voice honey-sweet. It makes perfect sense that a species as wise and experienced as yours would handle such weighty responsibilities. We wouldn't dream of burdening ourselves with such complex matters. The phrase weighty responsibilities seemed to hang in the air longer than it should have. Zexthal completed the ceremonial signing, feeling proud of his diplomatic skill. As the humans prepared to, Chen nodded slowly. How efficient. Tell me, has the consortium ever encountered a species that declined membership after experiencing your military intervention? The question struck Zexthal as oddly phrased. No species has ever been foolish enough to resist consortium authority once they've witnessed our capabilities. Witnessed, Chen mused. But not experienced. Not survived the experience to tell others about it. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Zexthal's translator was picking up subtleties in her tone that made his breathing apparatus flutter with anxiety. Secretary Chen, I'm afraid I don't understand it. Oh, I'm certain you don't, Chen interrupted gently, her smile never wavering. Thank you again for such an illuminating discussion. We'll be in touch very soon. After the humans left, Zexthal sat alone in the conference room reviewing the conversation. Every word had been polite, every gesture respectful, every agreement graciously accepted. So why did he feel like he'd just signed his own species' death warrant? 3 days later, the first consortium patrol fleet vanished without a trace in human space. The only transmission received was Secretary Chen's voice, still impossibly polite. How unfortunate. We do hope they weren't too uncomfortable during their educational experience.